Hi everyone. Good evening. I'm Saket. I am AI engineer at Snowflake, and I'll be talking about building multi-agentic application and workflows. Primarily trying to take the example of Sales AI platform that we have built for one of the GTM teams inside Snowflake, using most of the offerings from Snowflake. Uh, right. How do I move to next slide? Okay, sure, thanks. Right, so let's look at the problem first. So yeah, the core challenge here is the friction that enterprise sales team face, primarily with a huge number of sellers that's increasing, and also the amount of accounts that they have to handle. Right, there are like manual processes involved. If you look at the left side of the slide, a lot of manual processes around like creating prospecting, then doing the quality brief generation, then creating engagement content with them. And all of these are like low throughput process, inefficient human lead process. But if you look at the right side of the presentation, I mean, we do have a huge amount of data, which is multi-model nature. Like we have structured data around different consumptions of, let's say, all the companies that are, or maybe accounts that are part of Snowflake portfolio, and then a bunch of unstructured data, which is coming from all the interactions by AEs, SEs, etc. With these customers, right? And then we do have open source ML models that we can use, let's say, for predictions or things around that, or open web, right? So huge amount of data and a lot of manual process, right? So that the gap here is how do we connect these so that we can make the processes efficient. And that's where we have built something called AI Sales Platform, which primarily comes to fill this gap. Right. Moving on. Next few slides, I'll focus primarily on how we have built this platform. What are the core components there? Right. So this is a very high level diagram of what it is, how it is built. Right. So I mean, very similar to most of the multi-agentic platform, I would say. There is one orchestrator agent, which is primarily acting as a router, which does like the reasoning, reflection, all sort of memory management, right? And then we have core functional sub-agents, which are proficient in what they do. Like value proposition and other stuff, right? All these are built on Cortex platform, which is part of Snowflake. And these agents, like we can build using APIs, we can build using UI, etc. Right? And then infrastructure is managed by Snowflake. Other advantage is like we get sort of thread APIs, which is primarily like useful for managing the state. It can manage long-term memory, short-term memory, session memory, etc. Right? So, you get like that advantage as well, right? So all we had to do is like build these agents and sub-agents, and then hook it with these thread APIs to manage the memory, and then overall we have a multi-agentic application built inside Snowflake, which is governed, etc. Right? And yeah, that's pretty much at very high level. We can also get into detail here if someone is interested. Maybe I'll come back to this slide later during Q&A. Let's say if there are questions around implementation or details. Cool. Moving on, I can take one example, a case where like how does a brief look like? Sorry, how does a workflow look like? I mean, when I say workflow, what does it mean, right? So I spoke about a case where like these sellers kind of use our platform to bridge the gap between data. So I mean, if you see huge amount of data is not helping them, right? How can we help them? Maybe these workflows, like which runs, let's say asynchronously or synchronously, like on demand, off demand, anyway, right? And then, so one such example is brief generation. Here, what happens is, let's say a query comes to the orchestrator with bunch of details. Now, this query not necessarily comes from the user. It can come from softwares. let's say clients. These clients can be a CRM or anything as such, but precisely some layer which is able to provide like necessary informations which is required to run a workflow. When that comes to orchestrator here in brief generation, it primarily talks to 3 of the sub-agents. Now all these sub-agents, what we do is we have functional experts who are building these and writing a bunch of unit tests around each of them and hooking it to orchestrator. So we do have a way to kind of enable that internally, and it's pretty much like all the things that we see on the right side of the thing, which is around sub-agents. These are done by people who are closer to business, let's say, and the orchestrator is managed by engineering team, but eventually all of this comes together and then helps generate a brief. The interesting thing is all these agents and sub-agents here, like they have their own capabilities to reflect, to think, and then dynamically plan each step, right? And once the generation of brief is done, it's stored and using the thread APIs, and then it can be like accessed later on whenever that's required on demand by the users. Yeah. Talking about what is the actual architectural differentiator, right? So I would say it's the Cortex agent that we have, which is primarily sort of data agent, which can have capabilities to talk to your structured data, can talk to your unstructured data, and can have like ways to integrate with your third-party APIs, right? So I mean, in essence, each of these Cortex agents are capable enough to talk to any sort of data and then bring you back the information. Now these agents come inherently with the capabilities to reason, right? So I mean, each of it like inherently are very powerful agents, and to build them on Cortex is like not super super difficult. Right. Moving on. Right. So this part, I'll primarily focus on what are the parts which we kind of like solved with building this platform, and using Snowflake to build this. One is data never leaves Snowflake. So that's like inherently nature of what Snowflake enables you around security, etc. Also, there is RBAC that is applied. That is part of governance, right? So every agent is it's kind of credited to the given user, etc. There's row level policies around data access, which is making all these agents like really secure to for the access. And at the end, right, all these agents, Cortex agents, like kind of has audit trails, accountability is there, right? So each of traces, spans, etc. Everything is logged. Each of the tool calls, all the plans, dynamic plans, reflection, everything is logged into the system. All right. The other part that we solved with this platform, was primarily like as a part of the platform, we also have something called metadata layer, which is like powering the downstream orchestrator, where like it knows given the workflow, it kind of populates and it kind of enriches the metadata, which is being passed to the downstream orchestrator, and then kind of really gets the best out of them, right? So yeah, few open challenges that we still have. One is like emergent behavior of all these sub-agents, right? So as earlier like folks were talking about, when we have multi-agentic systems, it's very not very like uncommon to have a few of the sub-agents like not working, and then we still have to let's say complete a workflow. What are the things that we can do? Maybe halt the workflow or continue it, or can we make overall the architecture a bit more self-healing, let's say. So that's something we are exploring. Other thing is cost optimization. So right now with all these agents like able to communicate with each other, kind of also leaves with the scope there where like cost can go really high, and something that we are like kind of right now measuring and then kind of trying to optimize at every bit pieces. The other thing is how do we scale this platform for, let's say, practically n number of workflows. Right now, we are just supporting close to 8 to 10 workflows, where each of the workflows kind of runs for 100, let's say 100K times per week, making it to, let's say, close to, I would say 800K, 900K API requests. Each of the workflows may be running for 1 to 5 minutes or even 10 minutes at times. We are kind of looking at the ways how can we scale this up infra-wise as well as workflow-wise, onboarding more workflows here. That is it from my side. Any questions? Anything?
Hello.
Hi, Kumar, over here. To your left. Kumar, here.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the system of record for your CRM data?
It's primarily SFDC, that is Salesforce.
Okay, and
but then we do have like bunch of other third-party data, and kind of we plan to, we also like combine bunch of those things together to really build this platform on.
So what went into the decision of not using the SFDC's capabilities, right, for generating the brief?
Yeah.
Versus building it in-house.
Yeah. See, I mean, main reason is one that we do have bunch of third-party data. Also, app users, etc. Like for each account, what are the credit users, etc. That goes in. I mean, that's something we are not like ingesting back into SFDC. That's number one thing. Other thing is also we wanted to explore, how we can reuse the capabilities that we are building in-house, which is around Cortex agents and other stuff. So that was primary reason.
Okay, and what has been the ROI like? Has your sales pipeline increased a lot after this?
See, I mean, we have released this just, I would say, couple of months. So we don't have like really concrete numbers to define the success metric. But then we are closely tracking, and then we have initial good responses from the sellers in-house, right? So we'll continue tracking it and then kind of have some better numbers.
And eventually replace SFDC with your own tool?
I'm not sure. I think that will be ideal scenario. At least we can make SFDC more intelligent. The way we are looking at it is we want to eventually build this as an app that we can maybe, let's say, sell on the Snowflake app store, and that can probably integrate with SFDC or some sort of clients. Like we do support this platform capability behind different clients. Let's say we have now something called Snowflake Intelligence, so that is tied to that. Plus that's tied to also Slack bots, right? So these kind of systems can passively listen to all the Slack communications and can respond to few of the sellers' question without even like them asking or tagging, right? So there are a bunch of clients. We are just in that stage where we are exploring further. We see like in next 3 to 6 months, we should be able to be in a better shape to deliver to other clients, etc. Thank you.
I had a question, Gyan here.
Sorry. Yeah.
So just wanted to ask, like, what is the persona that you're going after? Because like large teams would have RevOps, and then SFDC integration, teams to support RevOps. But then this sits in between and kind of is all over the place, right? Because you need someone who would know, say, Snowflake to kind of do this. And then the second question is like, there are multiple motions, right? So inbound motions versus outbound motions, workflows. So you have LinkedIn reach outs, you have emails, you have calls. So how do you kind of integrate all of these? Yeah. Thanks.
Sorry, what was your first question?
So which persona is like in your mind, which is the persona that is supposed to kind of do this activity to come on, say, your Snowflake platform and set up all of these flows? Because it's a very heavy exercise.
So primary personas are going to be AEs, like account executives, sales development representatives. All these are going to be part of a sales team inside any enterprise. Right now, we are just trying to focus and build for Snowflake. It can be any enterprise, any big enterprise, let's say, trying to sell to other enterprises. And these workflows, the way it will be configured, it will involve like few admin users, few like end users, like there'll be bunch of users coming together and building these workflows together. But eventually the benefit that we see is, removing that gap between manual work that is there, and then making things more efficient using all the context, like the data that is lying around, and then it's not being used, right? The other question was, sorry, I forgot the second question.
Multiple motions, so inbound versus outbound versus.
Yeah. See, so there are two parts. We plan to solve with this. One is, see, when it's like pre-sales, and then, one is like, there are two types of accounts. One is prospect, other thing is expansion account, right? So in that also, in prospect, we can have different scenarios where like there are n number of interactions that are happening at the very beginning. Then there's a pipeline that follows, and then at every junction of it, we want to have some CGUs where we can help the respective stakeholders, right? And then if it's, let's say, an expansion account, then we want to like build different sort of workflows where it's going to like give ideas around what are the ways we can kind of help increase the consumption for, let's say, these accounts, right? So different junction, different CGUs. Right now our goal is to build primarily for prospecting, and then primarily trying to build for new accounts, which is getting onboarded, like trying to help the sellers, etc., doing the web search, research, etc., quickly, and then also like automating the engagement with the clients, like generating the emails, etc., like automatically for them, and then kind of tracking the engagement, etc. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Saket.